So first and foremost, I am pretty happy with this episode. I think they done a very good job capturing a lot of emotion in this episode, specifically towards the ending. We found out a lot of different characters, we kind of pushed forward a lot more story, and everything's kind of unraveling very quickly, but at a suitable pace. It's not perfect, but that's okay. The first episode had a lot of people worried because it covered 6 chapters, and it was extremely quick, and you could tell. You know, that was everyone's comments in last week's video. Oh, this was fast paced, this was so quick. I agree. This episode, I believe, covers about 3 to 4 chapters, or something like that. So you can visually tell as well, regarding the information and how the story kind of progresses through this episode, that it's a lot slower, and that's a good thing. As well as when I was watching, I felt like it didn't come off as messy as the first episode. It felt kind of coherent to a degree, so it was rather easy to follow. I didn't really find myself getting lost, even though they introduced a lot of subplots, like the story, if you will. They showcased a bunch of new characters and reveals and everything along the lines, and I think they've done it pretty well. They handled everything in a timely manner, and nothing was extremely drawn out and nothing was like super quick and short. So there was obviously some moments where it was very like kind of just through different scenes and different areas and places and characters, but that's to be expected. If you're looking for that stuff, you're gonna notice it heavily, but if you're just kind of watching the episode, I feel like it's quite coherent in its storytelling and pacing. I feel like it's pretty good. Now, like I said in the previous episode, I'm not gonna reference back to the manga. I could sit here all day nitpicking it, but to make this more enjoyable for myself and you guys as viewers, I'm not gonna do that. I'm just gonna view the anime for what it's worth, and then maybe when this series is done, I'll do a massive video explaining what the anime actually missed and basically fill in the blanks. So a lot of big things happened in this episode. We get revealed to Orochi and who that character is, which is Nishio. And I think that opening segment, like that beginning scene with Kaneki versus Nishio, and how it kind of kicks off, I guess, contrast between Hayase Sasaki and Kaneki. It's basically triggering these memories inside of Sasaki, which is obviously Kaneki's previous memories. So seeing Nishio for the first time kicks that off, and this is kind of when Sasaki goes out of control. Another squad has to come in and actually take him out, as well as Akira, which was nice to see her as well. And this is a big thing, because I will say that you guys should pay close attention to that, because it's obviously the leading development for Sasaki and Kaneki as a character, and how he's kind of slowly creeping into Sasaki's head. Like, he's always there, but the more that Sasaki has interactions with people he's previously met in his life, which obviously I won't say who it is, he'll slowly start to creep forward and forward. And as you can see from that opening sequence, which in my opinion was done pretty well emotion-wise, he starts to lose a little bit of control and he starts to lose sight of himself. They'd kind of wrapped that up in a nice manner. I thought the animation though was a little bit janky between that fight, as well as kind of like the different appearances of the Kagane. I understand they can't keep like a high quality, detailed looking Kaneki from like a very far distance, but they just extremely and quickly change up the whole look of it in very slight ways, which I wasn't really a fan of, because like you get these big close-ups and it's like, okay, that's kind of what it looks like, and then you get these kind of far away shots which aren't necessarily all too far away, but you can easily tell that the Kagane is a completely different design, if you will. So a little bit odd. It kind of takes you out of it, like, why is his Kagane changing like all these different colors and shapes, and it didn't look like that before, but it's not for all too long, so it only lasts like maybe a couple of seconds, and it's like, and if they put emphasis on it, it kind of makes it a little bit worse, but it's not all too bad. It's weird, because when they want to have emphasis on the Kagane, especially like highly detailed emphasis, there's all like this electricity and all these little particles kind of floating around, and then when you're obviously in the action sequences, it's like this very stale, bland looking lump of, I don't even know what you want to call it. It just looks bland. I understand that's kind of like the more quote unquote realistic side of it, because it's kind of red and it's meant to be blood and everything in between, so it's very hard to find kind of the balance between what looks good in very dark backgrounds compared to what looks realistic, also compared to how do we keep it similar to obviously the source material, the manga. So I think it's a better step from season 1, which was obviously just random ass colors. I kind of like the realistic approach, but they're losing a lot of the, I want to say, the emphasis on the Kaganes with how, I guess, kind of bland it's looking. And I guess that's a very fine line to teeter on. Like, you want it to look realistic and it's going to look bland, or if you don't want it to look bland, it's not going to look realistic. So it's weird, because they use both sides, and you can visually notice it. I apologize for going on a tangent like that, but it just stood out to me. We also get introduced to Saiko a little bit, which is great because I know a lot of people are excited for her character. She is the final remaining Quinks member. She's an interesting character. She adds a spice to the whole ordeal, to the group in general, but I'm glad they've, I guess, slowly introduced her character and like in a very comedic way as well, which is obviously fitting for her because she's like a neat, if you will. Like she doesn't leave her room, and she's playing video games, and you see her in this episode, she's taken a whole like leg of ham or something. There's just like comedic value with her, so I'm glad they kind of approached her character like that, you know, to kind of balance out the episode. You got these, you know, serious beginning, you've got these kind of dredged out, not elongated, but sometimes it gets a little bit long, pots of information going through, and then you see Saiko and it's like, oh, you know, this bright bubbly character that is stuck up in her room the whole time, even though she is a legitimate investigator that should be working. So it's good to see her, and I think a lot of people are going to be happy with I guess how they portrayed her in the episode. I also want to point out Yuri, who once again gets a lot of spotlight in this episode. It's not all too much, but out of the other characters, I feel like he gets the most important development for his character, which is a good thing because he is a unique character in that sense, and seeing, I guess, his flashback, quote unquote, to his father's death was very emotional. They had like this like sad, dramatic piano sequence, which I really enjoy in that flashback, and they spent a little bit on it. Like it wasn't overly long, but I feel like there was a lot of emotion there. You get kind of a good insight on who Yuri is as a character, as well as like, you know, why he is the way he is, as well as the fact that he got demoted as the squad captain and Shirazu took his place. So he's affected by all of this. When his main goal is to obviously move up the ranks and not really work as a team, when you get these flashbacks that help build his character, it's really nice. It helps you understand him a little bit more. I still find his like inner monologue very goofy when they bring up his face like really close up, but I actually like the way they mixed it in this episode. So like you have some inner monologue where it's like his face is really close, and then other ones where it's just like text without his mouth moving, so you get the gist that he's obviously talking in his head. I think I like those a little bit better. Overall, I still find it a little bit goofy, but it plays an important role for his character because he does it a lot, so there's no real wraparound for it. You know, it's all good. It's okay in the end. Important thing to notice as well, which plays a very big impact for his character in the future, is the Quinks development. Obviously, he's trying to unlock his frames, which they do explain in the episode how the Quinks work and the whole frame structure for it. He's currently on frame 2, I believe, and now he wants to go another frame, which is frame 3. From here, basically, it allows him to utilize his Kagane a lot more, but it comes at a cost because the more you obviously start using your Kagane, the more you yourself slowly lose control. And I guess I'll kind of leave it at that until they explain it more so in the future. Keep this in mind because hopefully they put a lot of emphasis on this in the future, especially because they're explaining it now, which is, you know, a really nice thing. You get a good idea for it. We also get introduced to Rabbit, which is obviously Ayato. We see a little bit of torso as well, so we're seeing a lot of familiar faces at this point. We see Arima in this episode. The bond between Arima and Kaneki was really nice to see. Once again, they knock it out of the park with like this piano sequence. It just fits that moment so goddamn well, and I will say, for what they show, they do a very good job in showcasing the relationship between Arima and Hayase, which is great to see. I will say that you guys should pay attention to that because Hayase and Arima get played upon heavily in the future, and these moments, these precious moments between them mean so much to Hayase and how it helps build him as a character in the future. So I love that. I think they've done a very good job, and just the subtle replies that Arima had to Hayase weren't overly harsh. They were very fatherly, if you will. So last but not least, we have the very, very emotional ending for the episode where Hayase walks into the Re-Cafe, which, funny enough, has TOUKA in it. These two meet face to face, and obviously TOUKA is shook. She's like, you know, what's going on? And Hayase is like, you know, who is this person? You know, she's so beautiful, but it was so simplistic to a degree. Like there was no real voice acting for it. It was kind of just the tension and the atmosphere that was building, and it was all thanks to the song in the background, which was like the perfect choice of this song because it like slowly builds up when they enter the shop, and then when Hayase and TOUKA meet, it's like boom, it kicks off, and it's like this heavy emotion that they stick into it. And you know, just from the song, like just from the atmosphere that they're building, that these two characters are so important. Like there's so much between them, there's so much tension and connection between them. It's an incredible thing to see, and for me personally, I feel like they knocked it out of the park. I feel like they done a great job with that ending, just to build emotion towards that, considering there was no voice acting whatsoever really. It was just the animation and just the interaction between characters very subtly, as well as the music, and that's it. And they just done a great job, in my opinion, doing that final scene. Overall, the episode was pretty enjoyable. Like I said, wasn't all too fast, wasn't all too slow. It did jump a bit here and there, but for the most part, I enjoyed it. I like the piano sequences that they keep doing to kind of build emotion. I hope they switch it up a lot more, because I think they used different pieces in this episode. They weren't as full on as the previous episodes, so I'm hoping they have a decent amount of music in their arsenal to obviously put into the episodes and whatnot. Also, the animation, not too bad. There was hardly any sequences in there that involved all too much. The only problem I had was the animation at the beginning with the fight between Nishio and Hayase. I thought that was a little bit weird to some extent. It was hardly a fight, but just little bits and pieces here and there that I can nitpick, but I think that's about it. Everything else I'm actually pretty happy with, and so far, with how I'm obviously reviewing the series and looking at the anime in itself and not referencing back to the manga, I am enjoying myself. I feel like they're doing a good job so far, and hopefully they keep it up. It's going to be a real test to see how they handle these upcoming action scenes when they introduce Nutcracker, which is the next big kind of quote-unquote villain. Also forgot to mention that we see Furuta for the first time, but he doesn't talk. I'm really disappointed they showcased him in the opening as like this weird villainy character. They shouldn't have done that, because it kind of ruins his whole aspect of a character. Because if you didn't know who he was and you seen him in this episode, you would have been like, oh, okay, it's just another character. But that's the beauty of Furuta. He's such a mysterious character, and you never really know what lies beneath him. You know, what is he planning? What is he scheming? Where does his morals lie, and how big of a deal is he? So I'm kind of disappointed they put him in the opening, but I'm glad we're introducing a lot of characters. You know, we're getting up there at this point, and I'm excited to see where they go from here and how they handle it. So that's basically it. Let me know what you guys thought of the episode. Did you like it? Did you hate it? You in the middle? What do you think of the final scene for the episode between TOUKA and Hayase? Because that's going to be, obviously a massive talking point. But with that being said, I'm actually going to end the video here. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I greatly appreciate it. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.